I am so beyond excited about today's guest. Although I realize I say that every week, but every week I just feel like there's so many amazing stories for people to share. And I get to be lucky enough to spend this time with Maddie this week. She's going to tell you the story about how she saved herself. So before we get into this week's story and Maddie's heart, Maddie, hi.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Yes. So today you're going to share the story about how you saved yourself and your life through the throes of addiction and what that looks like on the other side. And we were talking a little bit about before the show about what it might look like for someone listening on the other side. And as you listen to this, if you're someone who struggled with addiction, um, I hope that you hear Maddie's story and you see some commonality and you know that on the other side, there is joy. And if you're someone who's supporting someone through addiction, whether you're a family member or a friend, I think for me, this is a story that I didn't understand until Maddie was so gracious to open up. I didn't understand what it was like for her side of the story and what her family and everybody through this process. So, Maddie, tell us a little bit about your type of addiction and when it started.
Well, I'm an alcoholic. And really, I started using alcohol in a really unhealthy way. Um, Probably as a freshman in high school, so 14 years old. Um, I don't think it ever anybody starts doing something with the intention that it's gonna turn into something way bigger later on in your life. To me, it was just, partying with my friends and, um, yeah, it just became something so essential in my life as a teenager. And now after years of just kind of going through things and talking to other people that are in recovery, or I've just come across a lot of people that struggle with things now, going through my sobriety journey, that I now realize is completely unnormal. um
But it starts off normal enough, right? Like, so I was a high schooler and we drank. In fact, we would take Goldschlager and put it in Dr. Pepper bottles and we thought we were super cool. And it started off innocent enough. Like most people's, teenage years, you're rebellious and you're doing things and you're drinking or trying whatever. And then at some point it changes.
yeah, no, it does. Yeah, I mean, and I certainly didn't think anything of it, even out of high school. I mean, I've always kind of beat to my own drum and uh, made my life exponentially harder just because I thought I knew what was right or wrong, and my parents didn't know anything.
Okay, so tell me, so normal high school drinking, you're out of high school. Are you drinking more? Like, how much are you drinking? Is it a part of your everyday life? Do you feel like you're dependent on it?
Dependent on it, no. I
Okay.
I didn't think I didn't think I needed it in the way that I was still using it. But my mind was not anywhere near like, this is a problem. Um, I actually had a roommate who showed every sign of alcoholic tendencies. And of course, I didn't think of it that way. I was 18, she was 21. It was perfect. She could go buy me alcohol. We worked at the same place. It wasn't until months later that I even knew that she drank the entire time we were at work. We were waitresses. Um, so I didn't really think anything of it. But in that year of living with her is when really started to kind of become difficult in my life, but I was still not associating all of the challenges that I was going through with the alcohol. I just thought it was coincidence or just a lack of my care to things. But being on my radar as a problem, I wasn't there yet.
So
Um,
there were things that were unraveling or things that were not going well, but again, you weren't like, "Oh, this is the alcohol." You're like, "Well, it's this other thing or this other series of events." But not you didn't at that point make the realization that alcohol could have been a driving factor.
oh, exactly. And now looking back, alcohol was the only problem. There was no other problem. I was in hair school, and for a lot of people who don't attend hair school, you would never know this, but when you go to hair school, you are allowed to miss a certain number of hours. And then once you exceed those hours, you have to pay for them. The school I was at, I believe it was $10 an hour for every hour missed. So, and they call it an absent bill. So I am at school one day. My advisor comes and she's like, "Hey, can I chat with you for a second?" I'm like, "Yeah, what's going on?" And she's like, "So your absent bill is like getting really high and you're not even halfway through school." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And she explained to me, what it really meant is we cannot release these hours for you to take your boards, for you to become a full-fledged cosmetologist and do whatever you're going to do with your future unless this is paid. um and so, still not letting alcohol be the problem, I was like, well, I'm really stressed out, my rent is super high, I'm having to work all these closing shifts so that I can make enough money. And it nothing was ever because of alcohol. I had an excuse for everything else. And anyway, with that decision, I decided to withdraw. And I took a leave of absence from school, just kept working, kept doing all the normal things. And some girls that I went to school with kept reaching out and they're like, "Dude, if you don't come back, you're not going to finish." And I was like, "Oh, no, that's not true." Well, months went by and I hadn't gone back to school. So I was like, "All right, I really need to figure this out." So I knew that I couldn't continue with the program that I was at, because I already had a bad taste in my mouth because it was somebody else's
Mhm.
problem that I didn't finish school. Um, and there was some embarrassment, like, to go back after being gone for
Of course.
months. And so I talked to my advisor and I decided to transfer schools, um, to a completely different state, which really wasn't 3 hours from here, but in a completely different state, making my transfer back to the state that I live in completely difficult and stupid. But that was the decision that I made. Um, so I moved to Springfield, Missouri. My best friend at the time moved with me. I convinced her to go through the program. Um, and really, my not even full year, I was in Springfield for right around 11 months, is when everything really started to fall apart. And when alcohol very much became the center of everything. Um, I at this point was drinking um a handle of vodka.
So you mean like a giant bottle that has like the handle? Because I didn't know what a handle was until recently.
Yes.
It like with the big handle on top. So basically it looks like a gallon.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
1.75 of of vodka. And then it was really cheap gross vodka and it didn't matter. It was to the point that I had to drink the second that I woke up, um, or else, I mean, the shaking, the nausea, the constant dry heaving and vomiting. I mean, it was miserable. And I did this every single day for months. Um, and then,
All while going to
yeah,
school.
yeah, all while going to school. Had a pretty hefty absent bill at this new school too. I was missing a lot of school. Um, I didn't work. My parents were gracious enough to pay my bills and my rent, and um, I was I was in a state where, like, my where I'm originally from, you cannot buy full-fledged alcohol like in a grocery store, but the state that I moved to, you could.
Mhm.
And that was kind of my way to fudge things, because I would just go to Hy-Vee, and
Oh,
my mom would look at my bank records, and it just looks like I'm shopping for groceries, but really I'm buying alcohol. Um,
wow.
but
Did your mom know that you were drinking? Did she know there was a problem at this point?
I
Or anybody in your
I
family?
definitely think that she knew. I think everybody knew that something wasn't quite right. I mean, because I I've had these problems with alcohol for so long that it I wasn't really hiding it like I thought I was. Um and a situation happened. Again, I don't even know how much I've had to drink at this point, and I took every prescription, non-prescription pill in my possession. Every single one of them. I don't remember doing it. I don't know why I did it. Um but at some point,
Things weren't things weren't fun for you at
no,
this point.
no. I was uh I was in a bad place. I couldn't function on any level without, like, an embarrassing amount of alcohol in my system. Um but at some point, after taking handfuls of pills, I told my roommate what I did, and she called 911. And I remember the ambulance coming to my apartment, and I remember them coming into my room and saying, like, you need to come with us. And I agreed, and I could walk. I could totally, like, verbalize all of this stuff. I feel like they were like, "What are we doing here? Like, why? Like, this girl's totally fine. Like, yeah, she's probably drunk, but, like, I
But you were
yeah,
functioning. Through all of this, you're
yeah,
functioning.
I was completely with it. Um, and I remember getting to the emergency room, and this nurse bringing me a styrofoam cup with a bendy straw. And she was like, "Okay, you get to drink this." And I was like, "Well, what is it?" And I looked at it, and I was like, "Nope, I'm not going to drink that." And she's like, "Well, you have two choices. You can drink this, or we're going to shove a tube down your throat and do it that way. It is activated charcoal, and it's going to make you sick." And
Oh.
I was like, "Okay, here we go." And um these everything is really, like, in and out memories. I don't have super clear memories, but things I can kind of remember, that being one of them. But after that point, I really don't remember. The next memory, I was asleep, and something was, like, in my nose, and it was driving me nuts. So I kept messing with it, and this lady's like, nope, you have to leave it alone. If you don't leave it alone, we're gonna tape it to you, blah blah blah. It was oxygen. I didn't
Oh,
know what was happening. um so I remember that weird little blurb. I have no idea. Days have gone. I have no idea. Well, then I wake up, and my dad is in the hospital room. Well, that is a problem because my dad lives in Hawaii, and now he's in
right.
my hospital room in Springfield, Missouri. And I'm like, oh no. Like, what did I do?
This isn't
What
good.
did I do?
Yeah.
Well, from there, I am filled in on the things that I don't remember. And I was in the hospital for a while, was having some respiratory issues and some cardiac things going on. Just wanted to make sure everything was okay. And when I thought I was going to go home, they're like, okay, so your next step is you're going to go to Nevada. And I was like, no, I can't go to Nevada. Like, I live in Missouri and I go to school in Missouri and I have to finish school. Like, I can't just go to Nevada. And they're like, oh, so Nevada is a city. And I'm like, hey, that makes more sense.
Okay.
But they transferred me to Nevada Mental Hospital. So I was going to a mental institution because I tried to kill myself and I don't remember any of it. And that is a really scary feeling to feel. But still in my mind, I'm like, I didn't try to kill myself. Like, what are you guys talking about? Like, I would never do that.
The pieces don't
No.
piece together, but there's also a lot of big blocks where and it's you're pouring a depressant on it,
Oh,
right? Like,
completely.
so there's all these big blocks that are
Yeah.
missing, and you're like, "Wait a second, that wasn't what I was trying to do," but everybody else is like, "Oh, no, you're going, you have a problem."
Yep.
But they're saying you have a mental illness
Yes.
problem.
Yep. So I get there. Um, wow. It just was undeniably the saddest place I've ever been in my life. The people, you just can't even begin to imagine unless you've been there and seen it and experienced it firsthand. It is, um, I almost can't even explain it. Um, but I met with their psychologist, and really that's the first time I explained with a medical professional the level I was drinking, how much I was drinking.
And what was their reaction? Were they like, "It's okay," or were they like, "That's a lot?"
Well, they thought it was a bit of a stretch of truth.
Oh,
But at this point, I had
and it was
nothing to
not.
hide. I also have had healthcare professionals uh, think that I'm lying about being an alcoholic, like I'm also on drugs or I use drugs, but that just wasn't. It's just not the case. Um, but this doctor said, I don't think that you have a mental health disorder. I think you have acute alcohol disorder. And I was like, yeah, yep, that sounds better. Anything to get me out of here. So there I agreed to go to um like a outpatient rehab, if you will. Um and I did the whole program. I graduated. It was okay for a while. I graduated from school. I had amazing advisors that really just kind of did what they could to help me out of this phase in my life and move on. So I came back home. I was sober. Um, Started working as a cosmetologist, hairdresser. Um, And I started to kind of have these feelings of like, well, was it really a problem,
Mhm.
or did I just let my spin off so bad in my own mind that really I just like convinced myself that I had this problem, and it wasn't a problem. So at like 22, I started to drink again. And um, to my amazement, my life didn't fall apart. So I was like, okay, cool. Like I can do this. So I was working, I was supporting myself, I had friends, I had, um, I kind of had really everything that a normal person that doesn't battle with addiction had. So I'm like, okay, I'm good. Um,
Did you feel like you had conquered the beast? Like, did you feel like, "Okay, I can drink and do all these things," or did you feel like, this isn't a problem? Like, did you think that you did you think you were managing it, or did you think it wasn't a problem?
I thought it wasn't a problem.
Okay, okay.
And I feel like I can say that because just a few short years, I jumped from it not being a problem to me having to manage it. And it was two completely different things. Um, I met my ex-husband and we got married, and he was also a pretty heavy drinker. Um, Being surrounded by all these people that also drank in excess, during social things, it just seemed
It seems
totally
normal.
normal. Like yeah, I mean, it wasn't anything like it was just a few years before. Um, and yeah, but we were hosts. We had parties all the time. We were sports fans. Like really any reason
Mm,
to get a bunch of people together to drink was great. And everybody
mhm.
around us did it, so I saw it as no problem. Um,
I think that's a really important point is that there are so many social norms that include drinking. And there are so many things that are just normal. Like it's normal to go to the baseball game and drink. It's normal to go to dinner and have drinks. It's normal to have people over and have drinks. And so there for people who don't have a problem, it
yeah,
seems normal, right? Ish. But then if it's something that you're struggling with, it just seems like, well, it's okay because everybody else is doing it. I could see how that could really create this push and pull because you're just
yeah,
being social. You're just going to do
yeah.
these things.
And I mean, it's just everywhere. And like I also like where I live. It's a small community. There's not a whole lot to do. So
No.
really even demographically where I live, it's just completely normal. Football and Coors Light is like a thing. And I did it well.
Mhm.
Um but yeah, I did this for years, and it was just so normal, and it was almost like it was funny in a way. Like I had an alter ego. Her name was Madness, and like that's so embarrassing to say now because it's so not normal, but it whatever. It is what it is. But when things really start to go south for me again, was after my divorce. I decided that marriage just wasn't for me, for those reasons that it whatever. Um, yeah,
Lots
yeah.
of reasons, right?
But I got divorced, did all the normal things. I had to find a new place to live, so I bought a new house, and now I have all of these same social patterns, but at the end of the day, now I'm alone and no one can watch me and no one can see me. And this is when everything got completely out of control. Um, at this point now, I'm drinking a handle of Tito's every 24 hours, and this is simply maintenance. Um, I would,
This is just
oh
a
yeah,
function, right? Like, you're not like do you feel drunk at this point, or you just this is just your normal
totally normal.
baseline?
Um, going to the gym. I mean, doing literally anything any normal person would do, and I couldn't even begin to imagine what my blood alcohol content was. Because on top of that, handle of vodka, I would still go to dinner almost every night with my girlfriends, have multiple cocktails, going to the movies even. I mean, that came with a hefty bar tab. Just anything that you can do where there is alcohol, I was all about it.
Now, are you the does alcohol or does addiction run in your family, or are you the only one who
Yes.
deals with this?
So, um, of course, the longer line, I have great grandmother. I had never met her. A great grandmother that was an alcoholic. My dad's mother was an alcoholic. Um, and then um, neither one of my parents have those traits. And then I do have one um, full sibling, and he was an addict as well. His was drugs. He drank alcohol for sure, but it's heroin being the worst and ultimately what took his life. And through all of this, I lost a brother to addiction, and I saw what it did to my family and my mom. And even that wasn't enough for me to think like I need to make a change. Um, if anything, I just buried that emotion further in my drinking. Um,
So so you I think it's important, like, the timeline of things. So you start drinking young, it's all fun and games. There's a situation that causes a semi-catastrophic event, you end up in a mental
mhm.
health facility, and then ultimately in a rehab program. You're sober for a little while, and then all of a sudden, we're drinking again. Through this
Yep.
process, your brother dies. Um, and it's all still okay, right? And I'm
Yes.
air quoting, "Okay, it's still okay," because you're keeping your plates in the air. You have a job, you have a home, you have friends, you're doing all these things. But my guess is you're also profoundly sad, and pouring a depressant on top of the sadness probably just amplifies the entire
Yeah.
process.
100%.
And then at what point do you realize, or at what point does something change and you start the journey through sobriety?
So, I'm now at the point, and this is just about four years ago. I'm really struggling to keep it together. To this point, I've never missed a day of work. You know what I mean? Like I didn't allow it to like completely destroy my life, but even when I was at work, I was absent. Like, yes, I was there physically. Yes, I was doing what I needed to do, but all that I could think about was the minutes and the seconds until I could get home to drink. Um, until I couldn't do that anymore. It did get to the point that I was drinking at work. I would leave the premises, do what I needed to do to not feel um, almost like I was going to die. I mean, shaky, sweaty, nauseous, and the only way to feel better was to drink more. The vicious cycle that happens. And then I couldn't hide it anymore. So my coworkers were on to me, my bosses were on to me, and then it came down to a sit down like, "Hey, we know what's going on. You cannot be at work like this. You need to go and you need to get some help and we'll be here for you, but like you're you're not doing as well as you may think that you are." So, I went to detox.
So before
Yeah.
so before we go to detox, I want you to tell me what your heart looked like during those years that you were drinking. What does your heart look like when you're keeping all the plates in the air, but you're still drinking a handle of vodka a day?
Um, well, the best way to describe the way that it looked is there was nothing. Um, it there was nothing on this planet that mattered more than alcohol. So, me, I was just empty. It there was there was nothing happening. Nothing really brought me joy. Nothing really made me sad. Nothing really could tear me down because there was nothing left to give unless it had to do with alcohol. Nothing mattered.
So you were just walking around with an empty shell of a heart
Yeah,
and nothing matters
years,
for years.
years. And to know
Okay.
that
Wow.
the only love that I had in that time was alcohol is was a really weird realization. Um, because I have an incredible family. I have wild dogs that I love to no end, but in that moment, none of it felt nothing could make me feel. I
Just
felt nothing. Hmm.
you felt nothing. You just had an empty shell of a heart. Wow. Wow. So now you've gone to you've had this like intervention, right? Like you've had this moment of someone, your work saying, "Hey, you're not doing as good a job keeping all this
Yes.
together as you think you are." There's some type of an ultimatum, right? Like you're going to have to do something different if you want to
Yes.
continue.
Um, so I went to detox, did the safe way to do it, because it can be very dangerous, especially with the amount of alcohol I was consuming. Withdrawal and detox can be extremely dangerous. So I did a medical assisted detox and got out, and within days was drinking again. Um, at this point, I was rolling through the motions all over again. Um, everything, my timelines get a little blurry in this time just because I was pretending like I was okay, but I wasn't, and I was telling everybody that I was sober, but I was absolutely not sober. Um, but I'd say at least 6 months of doing this. And well, work caught on again. I started to show up to work smelling like alcohol again, because it really is true. Like once you put it down, your rate in which you accelerate to get right back where you were, it happens so much faster this time. So work caught on again, and they said, okay, you need to go and do something that's longer than just a detox. And you will have your job when you come back. We love you. We support you. Um, but we can't just sit here and watch you kill yourself. So went right back to the same detox center. Um, did their intensive outpatient program. Was doing pretty good. Through that, I really kind of trial and errored like AA meetings, which really didn't work for me. There were a lot of, identifying higher powers that just as a person with no religious background or tie at all, I just did not make sense to me. I'm like, what, so I'm supposed to give it to like this big dude in the sky that I don't know, and he's gonna fix it for me? Like that just doesn't work for me. Um, so really my solution was to isolate myself from everyone and everything around me. So I kind of became a hermit and did not leave my house for months. Um, which didn't work either because I inevitably started drinking again. Well, I wasn't quite to where I was drinking handles of vodka. I was drinking vodka, but not that much. Um, I had gone back to work, and my boss is like, look, this may sound crazy, but I think you should look into this unconventional, not mainstream therapy called ketamine. And I was like, sick. All right, let's look into it. So I went home that night, drank a lot. Looked up this guy's website, found his looking for like testimonials or something like that. I don't really even know what I was doing. Um, and apparently I called and left a voicemail because the next morning, I wake up, a number I don't recognize calls me, and typically I don't answer numbers I don't know. So this is very weird that I answered it, but I did. And it's this doctor, and he's like, uh, I listened to your voicemail. Can you come in and meet with me? I would be very interested to kind of learn a little bit more about what's going on. So that same day I went in and I told him everything, start to finish, how much I was consuming at this point, and uh he just looks at me and he's like, I've never treated anyone quite like you, but I feel like I have to help you because you were going to die. And I was like, okay. Like that was the first time that I I'm probably way worse off than I think I am. Um,
So when you hear someone say to you, "You're going to die," like this is not like this is someone who treats people for a living, and I can only
oh,
imagine what you said on the voicemail,
yikes.
right? And you're sitting in front of him, right? And you drove yourself there. And he's like, you should do this, you're gonna die. At that moment, do you realize the impact of that? Like you realize it
No,
now, but at that moment, did you
no.
realize it?
I, I, you know, to me, we're all gonna die, right? Like, I could die tomorrow. I could die. I don't know. It just didn't have impact the way I'm sure he thought it was going to in that moment. Um, but it was really kind of the first time anybody has said something to me like that, so it did kind of catch me off guard. And I was almost offended by it. Like, what do you mean I'm gonna, like, what?
You're like, "I'm fine. Like, I can do all the
Yeah.
things. Like,
Yep.
everybody's a little worried, but, like, I'm fine."
And there were there were some things that I just didn't understand in the moment. Oh, well, let's also face it. I'm sitting in this man's office drunk. So he said, "Do you have
Mhm.
somebody or whatever?" I'm like, "Oh, yeah, my mom." So my mom comes in. Obviously, there's HEPA and whatever. So he can only say so much and la la la. But unbeknownst to me, um, he pulls my mother aside and says, "I don't think she's telling me the truth." And my mom's like, "Okay, like what is it?" And he's like, "There's no way she's drinking this much alcohol. There's no way." Well, he didn't have a breathalyzer in his office, but I did submit a urine analysis, and I think that answered all of his questions because he treated me the same day. And
Mhm.
um oh,
So, for people who don't know what ketamine is supposed to do or what it's used for, will you just give, like, a
oh yeah.
very high level now, we're not doctors, we're not treating anybody, but, like,
So
what is ketamine
that's
typically
a
used
great
for?
question because I had no idea either. So ketamine is used for anesthesia. It is a short acting anesthetic, so it has about a 40 to 45-minute span. And when used in a medical hospital setting, it is typically administered with a drug called Versed. And the Versed is like a benzo, so you don't remember. Well, the reason you don't want to remember is ketamine is a hallucinogenic. So you you are completely hallucinating. But the idea behind using ketamine in this type of setting um, is it makes your brain fire really, really rapidly. And the idea is to kind of reset your brain and recalibrate the way that things work. The other part of it,
And it's used for depression and all kinds of other things.
yes.
Like, they use it for all types of
And
different therapies,
um,
right?
throughout all of these years of addiction specialists and therapists and whatnot, I've always been diagnosed with um, depression or acute depression disorder, which I had a really hard time accepting considering I am addicted to a depressant. So, yes, I probably have depressive tendencies, but I consume depressants all day long. So, while I
Mhm.
wasn't totally sure how the ketamine was going to work for the addiction side of it, I knew that it could probably help pull me out of some of like the depressive parts that come with being an alcoholic. Um, so yeah, I also learned um, to what he was shooting for with me was to almost have me experience a rebirth effect. So he would kind of guide me through, like, okay, we're going to up your dose this time. And I kind of want you to think about seeing yourself die. And I'm like, what? And he's like, and then you will have a rebirth and you may even see yourself as far back as in your mother's womb, or you may see yourself as far back to being a child or whatever. I never had those experiences. I really never saw anything. Everything was shapes and colors and movement, but like shadows almost. But I never had this like profound aha moment of that version of myself is dead, so I can move on to the new version. I never had that happen. Um,
However, 16 treatments later, and we're now what, 3 years in,
yes.
and you're still sober.
Yep.
And so whatever happened in those 16 treatments, which my guess
Yep.
is part of it you don't remember and part of it we never know, and,
Yep.
those shapes and colors and shadows, whatever it was, I truly believed you saved yourself by making that phone call that day. And then through treatment, now you're sitting here
Yes.
a very different
Very
human.
different. And I think where my other where I can really feel like saying I saved myself was because I mean aside from the ketamine therapy, I didn't do anything else that the typical person trying to recover from alcohol would do. I didn't go to meetings. I didn't sit around and sulk in my own misery, but I isolated myself from everyone and everything and just had to sit in my own head, which I had never done before. I've never thought about my own thoughts. I've never really taken accountability for some of the things that I've done in my life, which probably led to some pretty heavy binge moments, which in that moment I didn't
Yep.
realize was just increasing and increasing to the level that I got to where just consuming alcohol all day long. Um, so I don't I don't think it's a bad thing that I did it the way that I did it, but I do see where like the old timers through AA really frown upon the way that I did it because it left a lot of room because I didn't check in with anybody or I didn't, talk to anybody through what I was going through. I kind of just made myself do it.
I think that's what's hard is that everybody thinks there's like this prescribed path for how we're supposed to get somewhere. Like whether it's, you know, getting to a point of sobriety, or whether it's losing weight, or whether it's your job, or whether it's how you handle your children, no matter what it is, right? There's no one way of getting over there. And I know a lot of people who've worked in AA program or in a program and have been wildly successful, and that's worked for them. And but it's also okay that the way you did it worked for you, because again, you're on the other side and you're doing amazing and you are such a bright, happy, loving soul, and um how you got there is your own story, and you're in this crazy human experience, and what worked for you may not be what worked for others, but it's really it's very profound to me that you took accountability, that you sat with your thoughts, that you, because I'm sure it wasn't all pretty, and you through that every day. And I'm sure there's still times where people are like, well, should we invite Maddie to this ball game because is she going to drink or is she going to want to drink? Or should we do something different at this event because Maddie's going to be there? I'm sure that concern still comes up because I'm sure the people around you were
Hmm.
deeply affected by your addiction. Um, but again, you're 3 years sober, you're happy, you're healthy, and So my question is, what does your heart look like on the other side?
Without a doubt, there is a heart in there. I wasn't totally convinced there for a while that there was even one.
Okay.
Um, but I feel vibrant. I feel like my heart now has a light that can touch other people. Whereas before, I couldn't even like wrap my head around the next 24 hours and certainly not helping anybody conquer anything else. And so I see a lot of brightness and shiny shimmery that almost engulfs what is around it. Um, it's
I love
it's
that.
weird. Um, Before I just never felt um like there was any light left in me, and now it's it's there. It's a pretty cool thing.
So much light. It really is. If you had one piece of advice to give people,
It's okay to be in your own head, um, and to listen to your gut and into your intuition. Um, I knew that something was wrong a long time ago, but I thought it wasn't affecting my everyday life, mostly meaning my job performance, like really just because I could still work. I just convinced myself that it wasn't that bad. But really deep down, I knew that this is getting out of control. So just listen to your gut. You, I know in terms of alcoholism and alcohol dependency, I think the first time I asked myself, maybe I should cut back, or I think maybe I am drinking a little bit too much, that should have been my first sign that something's not right. Because later I found out people without addiction don't ask themselves those questions. So,
yeah.
mhm.
So you don't have to have it all figured out. Just listen to your heart. And if you start asking yourself those hard questions,
And there is a big world full of people and resources to help. While you think you may be a burden to someone, that is the opposite of what it means to them to be asked for help. Hmm.
to help. Amazing. Thank you so much for being here. Happy Thursday, everybody.